Hey guys, what's going on? Tony here, CCxRC, and today on the bench we have the CEN B50 monster truck because I want to show you guys how I set up my monster trucks for forced steer. Now typically I don't do it to like my big race trucks, but this is a fun scale kind of basher. I love how this thing basically looks kind of realistic in the way that it freestyles, and I wanted to be able to do small courses like we did in the Kevin Talbot challenge. But I also do this with my clodbusters. I do have one of them set up differently than this, where you toggle on and off, and then when you do your steering, it'll steer for both front and rear when you control the steering wheel. But we've got this one set up so that the rear works on a different switch over on the side here, so we can choose if we want to crab or what we want to do with the wheels as we're driving. So we have complete independent control over the front and the rear, and that's how I want it. That's kind of how they do it for real. And so we're going to do that. But to do that, I had to do a couple of things. This does come stock with a way to be able to buy an upgrade kit for this, which will use the one servo to do front and rear, and that's cool if that's how you want to do it. The other way is to do servo on each axle or for each axle, and to control it that way. And so I have the kit here is the CKQ 1052. It's the 275 millimeter wheelbase, the 4-wheel steer kit. So that's the part number that I got to do the rear steer. And then I just also got Freestyle RC makes a on axle servo mount, and so I have servos front and rear on this. We're going to look at it, get on the other side of the bench, and show you guys, because I do want to program this controller, the new DX5 Rugged by Spektrum. I got the new green one with the new touch interface on it, and so I want to run this truck off of this controller here. So I'm going to be doing what I've done here in the control setup that I have here and moving it to this one, and I'll show you guys how I do the setup when we do that. So that's why we're making this video, because I'm doing it anyway. I figured I'd show you guys how I do it. So let's do it. Alright guys, so I'm going to give you a quick look at this thing and how I have it set up. It's been through quite a bit since I got it. As you can see, I need to get a new shock body post tower, not shock tower, body post tower. But down here is what is kind of making all of this work. Right here are these Freestyle RC axle servo mounts, and they go from the back of the axle and they just screw in, and they allow you to then mount your screws in right there and hold it in place. So you take this arm as part of the servo original setup that is up on the top. Here is where your servo is mounted, and it goes through to a little thing here. You bypass all of that, but you get to use that part. You don't have to buy any other parts except for the servo mount by Freestyle RC. So that's the front. For the rear, as I mentioned before, you need to get this part kit right here, and that's going to give you the different axle internals here with the dog bones to go to the wheels here, and be able to also turn. I can't talk tonight, so you've got the ability to turn there. I do have it still on with the servos here, so you can see how it's working. I just kind of found whatever I had laying around for a servo saver, because I do land on the back and I need a little bit of safety and protection for that on the hits that it's going to take. But overall, that's it. Another set of the braces. So you got servos front and rear. Both of these are the stock CEN servos by Savox. That's who they're made by for CEN. But very easy to get in here and change out this axle to make it a forced steer. And the kit that you buy from CEN makes it super easy. So I'm going to show you now how we program it and what I'm running. So I've got up here in this nest, I've changed out the stock setup, and I'm running the Spektrum SR515 in here, but the rest of this is stock. We're going brushed, and we're going to just leave it. The WP1040 handles well for this size truck. It's all you need. It's perfect. I love it. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to turn off the other controller. First we'll turn off the car. We'll put this back on the tripod. Turn this off. This is now going to remain off. I've got my new controller ready. And as you can see, it already has the model in here. So we'll see it's a B50, and I've set it up under model select. I've got it right there. So this is the third car that I'm adding to this. New controller, and the touchpad on it is really awesome. If you haven't seen my video about this, they definitely changed it from the previous one. I had an okay time with the previous one. You can see it's got little like sections on it where this is one flat piece. But this definitely does make it a little bit easier to maneuver this. Alright, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to bind. Alright, so for the Spektrum, I'm just going to hold down this little bind button here in the front when I turn on the car. We're now flashing and in bind mode. So with this up on blocks, which is what we want to make sure we have, I'm going to go ahead and now switch this down to bind, frame, and we're going to choose bind at the bottom. Boom. We now have the front steering set up. Alright, so congratulations, we've just bound our truck. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up our controller to be able to control it. So we do have steering, and we have the ability to drive, but we don't have any force steer or anything like that of any kind. And so we want to set that up. And there's two ways to do it. One is going to be the way that they would prefer you to do it, or it's at least been set up for you to do it. You don't have to do it, I guess, but you'd go into mixing and choose steering, and then you'd choose the four-wheel steer. And I'll show you how to do that here later on, but first what I want to do is show you the way that I do it, and that is to go down to your aux assign. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose to assign the auxiliary channel, which is auxiliary 1, to an input. So what I prefer to do with these is I like this F button right here that I can reach with my thumb, and it's kind of like that toggle switch that they use in real Monster Jam in a way to toggle on their rear steer left and right with the switch. And so we've got it, but what I want to do is I want to choose that, and I want to choose 3 position. Alright, so as you can see, we've got it now set up. We've got steering here, and we've got full rear steer now, and we can do it independently or together there, or we can make it a crab, but we do it all using this. That is way more on this small frame that I want that to turn. I mean, that's turning a lot, and that's going to be problematic. The other thing is I'm going to turn off the beeping, because beeping with this is going to get really annoying. So we're going to turn off our sound effects on the controller at some point here. But, so what we're going to have to do is we want to turn down the amount of travel right here for aux 1. And I'm going to guess around 60%. We just need a little, and it's going to help it travel or turn so much faster. Even a little bit of rear steer is going to really help us whip around that corner. So that's still a pretty good amount. It's not nearly as much as the front is turning. Just give me that little bit. As you can see. So that's the basic way that I like to set that up. I'm realizing I also have to trim the rear right now because we're not sitting very straight. So I've gone into my sub trim right now, and I probably should have done it when I put the wheels on, but that's looking better. But the front one is actually a little bit off as well, my steering. It's because I had it set on my other controller. That's looking pretty good. So Now we can choose to crab walk or do forward steer. Now the thing is, I don't actually like it to, when I go right, I want to push forward to go right. I want to push the car that way, and I want to pull it left because it feels like I'm pulling with this, and so I want to match that movement. So what I'm going to go in and do as well is I'm going to go ahead and reverse aux 1. So now when I push, it's going to mimic that right turn, and when I pull this way on this switch, it's going to be like going left for steer. So that's how I set it up, guys. That's the quick down and dirty way to do it, but it also feels more realistic. And honestly, going down a straightaway, I don't want to be using rear steer. So if you've got it always on rear steer, so that when you're controlling with this, it gets really hard to control. So if I can just be hands off down the straightaway and just steer the front, that's great. And then hit a corner and be able to turn it on a dime, that's when I want that forward steer, if I got a hairpin turn. So that's looking good. But for you guys, I'm going to go ahead and go in here and show you the other way to do it as well. Alright, so the easy way for me to do this for you is I'm going to just create a new model. Got it going through binding. Boom, we got it. So what we're going to do now is wait for it to reboot. Go down to mixing. Choose forward steer. Turn on inhibit. Or select it and then push up. Now we've got aux 1. That's what we want. But we need to go ahead and set a switch for it. Whichever switch you like. It's only giving us a few because some of them are already programmed. So I'm going to choose D. It's on the front here, which is easy enough to grab while I'm driving and make the change. So I don't want it to do all these things. I don't need just rear steer. I don't need crab walking really for racing and for my uses. I don't want to have to toggle through them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the front steering here as position 1 and position 0. Actually, I'll just do 1, and then the forward steer will be position 2. And that should be okay. None of the rest are going to be set. So now when we steer, turn off my other controller, beeping at me. So I can use this toggle switch. Maybe I have to back out here. And now we can turn on forward steer. You can see how aggressive that is to always be on. You can then just quickly toggle it off, hit it with your finger, toggle it on. And I have one of mine set up this way. You can also go in then and you can turn down your rear steering rates if you want for this. So I'm not going to go through all of that because I don't really use this way. But that's the basic on how to do this, is that way. But I'm going to actually go back out now because I don't want to forget. I'm going to choose to go back to this other model and we're going to rebind it because that's what I want to have as my setup for this vehicle. So put this back into bind. I really like the simple button push that Spektrum has made. I don't need a little bind plug. I hit bind and it should remember everything that I'd set up. This is all programmed to the controller. So the only thing I have to do still is go in here and go into settings and turn down my sounds, turn them off for my key clicks. Here's my trims. Yeah. I don't mind the QuickLinks being on, but I do want the trim ones off. All right, so there you have it. A 4-steer CEN B50 that's running independent 4-steer front and rear, where you can choose which way you want to do it. You can just drive down the road and only choose to do the rear steer if you want, front steer, choose to actually steer, or crab walk if you want. Now you can if you want to. Part of the trick though is having less travel in the rear. So again, I did have to then dial in and straighten out so that it'll drive straight, and I may have to trim it when I get it on the ground again with this controller. I had it trimmed before, but yeah, great controller by Spektrum, great truck here by CEN, as well as the great little mounts by CCxRC have made this a really cool monster truck, you guys. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like my way of doing the 4-steer? That's my preferred method. Eventually I'll get my Raminator over to that as well, like I have my Clodbusters. So anyway guys, thanks for tuning in. Let me know if you have a different way of setting it up, but I do definitely like the single toggle for the 4-steer with these. And I have one of my axials that's going to be the original sticker bomb, I believe, is going to become a 4-wheel steering SMT10 here very soon. I have all the parts to do it now, and I just need the time to do it. And we're going to get it set up just like this, where we can choose when we want to do 4-steer like the real guys do it. So thanks for tuning in. As always, guys, have fun RCing, and we will catch you next time.